Hey, 420 MSP, Harry here, and I'm back with Marc Haskelson of the Compliancy Group. Marc, welcome. Welcome to the second half of 2020, the fall. Time to get back to work, my friend.
Yeah, very much so. Hopefully this will all be over and we can all get back to work.
Yeah, hey, I want to highlight something really cool. So I'm on toptender.com,
Very
toptender.com, and Marc, and I'm assuming you can see my screen. Is
Yeah.
that correct? Okay, cool. And what this is a Seattle entrepreneur who has developed, he's done a couple of deals in the cannabis vertical, and his latest is Top Tender. And the idea is a mobily responsive training site that people would use their phones for. You could use the web as well, but bud tenders would make themselves knowledgeable and complete courses and be good for the employer, good for the bud tender, good for the customer. So I want to just show you that they have really loaded up the site. There's a bunch of courses on, Cannabis 101 and other topics, flower and topicals and edibles, but we're here to talk compliance. And it's more than a handful of courses. So I'm just going to kind of scroll down. You got Pennsylvania, Oregon, Ohio, Massachusetts, Michigan, Arizona, Maryland, and on and on and on. So I'm going to pick one or two. Let's get to California. There we go. So I'm going to randomly pick California consumption laws,
All right.
and we're
Kind
going to have the
of
experience.
for
So
the 420 set.
what's that?
Kind of like master class for the 420 set.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is really good work, and that's why I want to give a shout out. A gentleman named Ryan Porter's behind it. So right on, Ryan. So the idea, Marc, is pretend we're on our phone and we're on a coffee break, and we go down to the coffee shop, and in a quick way, we can make ourselves a better employee, a better bud tender, which I support. So here it is. Illegal to use, consume, smoke, eat, or vape cannabis in public places or while driving. The fine's $100 per infraction. Within 1,000 feet of a school, daycare center, federal lands. So this is interesting, Marc. Federal lands, national parks and waterways. And I don't know if you want to add some value to this. Maybe you already knew this. Maybe you know some of these components. I realize you're more on the HIPAA side, but I don't know. I thought it'd be cool.
Yeah, this is great because there are a lot of times that questions come to us that are not really what we do, right? And the question, for example, federal lands or within, the distance from a school, public places. You see a lot of people, they go to a recreational friendly state and they don't understand the rules and get themselves in a jam, right? And then although this is meant for the folks in the business, this makes it a hell of a lot easier. I don't know how many times I've seen two people debating or disagreeing on which state, which rule. This makes it this is fantastic. You pull it out, look it up on your phone.
Yeah.
Who contributes the content for this?
Yeah, it's, as I understand it, it's primarily generated by the different vendors. So let me answer that this way. So first of all, I'm going to mark as red, okay? And I'm going to show you what that looks like, is I've now completed 2 courses. So Washington State Purchasing Limits, the California Cannabis Consumption Laws. And this is really cool when you're an employee, right? And you want to go show your boss that I've gone through the courseware, and who knows what that results in, certainly your continued employment. But let me go back to the broader courses, and then we'll do one more compliance issue. So Fairwinds is a brand based out of the Pacific Northwest, and they would be contributing the academic content. And that's a key point, Marc, is you can see it's not an advertisement for Fairwinds, right? Fairwinds wants the bud tender to be knowledgeable about this line of work so they can do a better job. And basically these little JPEGs are a shout out to the brands, right? So you have brand impression and a favorable brand impression. So that's who's contributing the content, is my understanding. Let's go back to compliance. We'll knock out one more, call it good. So let's go down to the state of Washington, and this might be closer to the mark, as they say, in terms of, the world you live in. So becoming a licensed medical marijuana consultant in Washington State. Mark, let's take a look at it. What is a medical consultant? So it's a certification, okay, in the state of Washington. Certified consultants are granted access to the medical marijuana database, verifying the cards, etc. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
To maintain a medical endorsement, the retailer is required to have a licensed medical marijuana consultant on staff. You know, a lot like the Microsoft Partner Program with the MCSE designation and certifications behind me to be a silver gold partner. So I get it. How do you get certified? The time it takes is largely up to you. Involves completing a 20-hour training program. Any thoughts on that? Have you bumped into this certification conversation?
No, but it's actually, I've seen this because the complicated line for medical versus recreational is, you know, these dispensaries are acting like a pharmacy, which means normally a pharmacist would have a level of training. So I'm impressed that there actually has, I was not aware that there was actually a Washington, you know, state program on this.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it really is, although you know, even though, let's say, this is specifically kind of speaking to that state and the educational requirements of both the tender and the, I guess the you know, the customer that comes in.
And, well, and the dispensary, right, right.
This is this is fantastic. And
yeah, Ryan's doing really, really good work. The program costs vary, but start around $350. Folks, I'm making this up as I go, but you could certainly Google or search this. There's highlighting a URL, but certainly searchable for you to double click down into it, or sign up for Ryan's site, Top Tender. Finally, let's just kind of walk through this. In total, the medical marijuana consultant license will cost $550. So that's apparently the fees and the training. You could start today, complete your classes at a reasonable pace, give yourselves 2 or 3 months or even sooner, makes sense to me. And then, hey, this is interesting, Mark. To retain your license, you need to participate in 10 hours of continuing education every year. I like that. I like staying current. And finally, look at this, that you have, so you complete the 20 hours. Yeah. In-person CPR training, and then submit an application to the Department of Health. I'm going to mark it as read. What it does for me, that particular understanding of that designation, Mark, is I had occasion a little over a year ago to stop at a dispensary and talk about how does medical marijuana work with palliative care or hospice. And it was really interesting that the lady I just happened to walk up to and start talking about that was medically certified, Mark. And she could speak towards, you know, what's the ailment? Here's what we know to be true. What are you trying to achieve? Maybe anxiety relief, suppression of being nauseous, and appetite, in increasing your appetite. So it was a good dialogue. And this person was trained and certified as a medical professional, medical marijuana consultant. So how cool is that? I mean, that's a thing that really exists.
That's a good, and I tell you that's very helpful, because you think of one of the big complaints of, let's say, homeopathic, this alternative types of treatments, you know, like CBD. There's a lot of this great, you know, disparity of what can it do, what doesn't it do, you know, what are, you know, the strengths. You know, you see a lot of those kind of variations where, yeah, it makes a lot of sense if someone can get. I also, what I like about this is it becomes kind of a closed ecosystem, because although I don't know if it was intended that way, I'm looking at it saying, look, this is a great way to make sure, you know, people who go and do extra training and improve themselves should get compensated, you know, differently. Right?
Yeah.
You know, reward them for them taking on, because one of the big complaints, and we see this in compliance in general, is how do you get your people to want to learn, right? Versus check off a box, yeah, I did what I was supposed to do. This makes it interesting. You know, if I have a, you know, if I'm much more interested in CBD, fine. I go to the CBD courses, and now I'm more valuable for my firm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So here we go. And
It almost comes off like product review as well.
yeah, yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of product going on here. That's fair. I
It's not
mean,
necessarily bad if you click on one. If it's telling you about the product versus trying to sell it to you, then that's no harm, no foul.
yeah, yeah, and again, if you're going to work the floor, you should be. So here's a 20-to-1 tincture. Let's just click in,
Here we get. Yeah,
and it
because
looks like it's tied to the state of California. It said CA for California. And here you go. So yeah, Mark, here's a product slick, right? Good for athletes, injury, stress, the cannabinoids, the dose, etc. Right? So that's one full dropper per dose, 15 to 20 seconds and swallow. And then that's going to be a fairly rapid payload delivery, right? Because that's almost like chewing tobacco, my friend. And
I tell you what I like about this is because I went into some stores that especially when I'm traveling, there's stores I go to because their bud tenders are just more knowledgeable,
yeah.
right? So, I'm walking in saying, look, my back's aching and I got a lot going on. I want to get a good night's sleep. And, it really helps when the person's like, look, that brand or this brand is better for those combination of things. This is great.
There you go, my friend. Well, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. I think we both leave the conversation richer, and I'll talk to you next month. Thanks, Mark.
No, I appreciate it having me, and thank you, and success to all of the participants. This is a great new idea.